Welcome, friends. Today we are walking into the murky world of Italian cooking. One of the things I've learned over the years of creating video content about recipes and working with dozens of Italian chefs is that there's nothing more divisive than an Italian recipe. Which I kind of think is a good thing. I mean, it means that people are passionate about their food, they're passionate about what they're making. What it means on the other side is that anytime you try to present a recipe, you cannot call it authentic or traditional because people are just going to rip you to shreds. But we're still going to give it a shot. So this is a Bolognese recipe that I have put together after talking to dozens of Italian chefs and home cooks and cookbook authors and recipe developers. And there is no consensus whatsoever on the exact ingredient list for this recipe. Everybody has their own take on it. Everybody believes that their take is the only way. So in a heavy cast iron pot, I've got it on some heat. I put some olive oil in the bottom. And the one thing that there is a consensus on is you start it with a sofrito, which sofrito is essentially a mirepoix in French. And that's onion, carrot, and celery. These are diced really finely. You want a really small dice, almost a mince. And if your knife skills aren't that great, go ahead and use the food processor. Put them in and get it small that way. You want them small. We're going to put this in here on a medium-low heat, and you want to sweat it down. You don't want to add any color to it. You don't want to add any flavor through color. You just want to sweat them out and meld all of those flavors together. Next up is, what meat do you use? Opinions here differed, and everyone was, again, adamant that their way was correct. Most people agree that beef is part of the mix. Minced beef, ground beef, whatever you want to call it, beef. Some people said 50-50 beef and pork. The pork bringing a nice luscious fattiness to the dish. Some people beef, pork, and ground pancetta. And that pancetta, again, would bring sort of that oily unctuousness to the dish. And the most adamant of all of the people that I spoke with insisted that only ground skirt steak or diaphragm meat could be used in this dish, that was the most traditional. And I would tend to think that that's probably true. It is a tough piece of meat. It's something that would be used in a dish like this because it really wouldn't be used for anything else. So that goes into the pot, and we'll fry that off until it's just no longer pink. Again, you don't want to bring any color to it, just until it's no longer pink. So as the meat is cooking, you want to break it up with a spoon or a wooden spoon just to get it into really small little bits. You don't want big chunks of meat in the sauce. So it looks like we're pretty good. Next up, a little bit of seasoning, so salt and pepper. And now we get to talk about wine. All of the professionally trained Italian chefs, I mean chefs that were born, raised, trained in Italy that I've spoken to, white wine. White wine, and preferably a white wine from the region of Bologna, Emilia Romagna. A couple different wines that they mention. I can't get them here, so I'm just using a very dry, highly acidic white wine. And I know all of the home cooks I've spoken to, red wine, has to be red wine, has to be red wine. You're using red meat, you have to use red wine. And that's just not the case in this case. You're not looking for the wine to add a flavor, which is what red wine would do. Red wine would add a flavor. You're looking for the wine to unlock flavors. And so the white wine doesn't have a whole lot of flavor on its own. What it has is alcohol and acidity. And so that will unlock all of the other flavors and make the sauce stand on its own. So this is on medium-high heat, and you want to boil that down to boil off most of the alcohol. probably by about 3/4. And while this is bubbling away, I'm going to put in the next sort of controversial ingredient, and that's nutmeg. I'm going to grate in a little bit of fresh nutmeg. This is something that a lot of people say don't do. This is something a lot of people say you must do. I'm going to throw it in because I really like nutmeg. We're looking good. Now at this point, there's a couple of elephants in the room. I can hear people already typing and pulling their hair out, leaving comments. WTF, where's the garlic? Everyone I spoke with who is professionally trained said no garlic. They also said no leaves. So that means no oregano, no thyme, no rosemary. Some people said it was okay if you threw a bay leaf in, and then, of course, you take the bay leaf out before you serve it. And other people were adamant, no leaves. This recipe stands on pretty much the meat alone. Next in is tomato paste. And that was one place where everybody agreed. Tomato paste only. No tomato sauce, no ground tomatoes, no crushed tomatoes, tomato paste. They were very adamant that this is a meat sauce with some tomato in it, not a tomato sauce with some meat in it. So we'll mix that in. And then that brings us to the next sticking point, which is milk. And this is something where it was all over the map. Some people said milk in this sauce is an American thing that came back to Italy. And some Italians said no, milk is something that their grandmother always put in it. I'm kind of torn, but I like living on the edge. So I'm going to put milk in. And this is full, the people who said put milk in said full fat milk. So this is 3% milk, homogenized milk, homo milk, depending on where you live or what they call it there. Put in about a cup, and we turn the heat right down to a low, low simmer. Stir that in, and we let that go at a very low simmer for 2 to 3 hours. Now you want to check it every half hour or so, give it a stir. If it's getting too dry, a little bit of chicken stock or water at that point just to loosen it up again. But this really is a fairly thick sauce. So I'll see you when it's done. Okay, so the pasta is pretty much cooked. And in this pot, I have the sauce.
Did you make this pasta, Glenn?
I did not. I'm testing panettone. And I got to tell you, the testing panettone isn't going so well. So
what? There's no panettone?
There's no panettone. Panettone's coming.
The disappointment is cheers.
So this is, I used a fresh egg pasta. It's pappardelle? I don't know. It's wide egg noodles. You are not going to get me to say things in Italian. So I've put it in this pot.
Not well, anyway.
Not well, no. So why even, I can't, you're just going to make fun of me for saying it wrong. So it's in this pot with the sauce that we're just going to cook it the last little bit to cook the sauce in. And if the sauce is too thick, add a little bit of the pasta water, which I think I might do.
Okay.
Just a little bit to get the starch.
Oh, that seems like a lot.
Last little bit.
All right, I'll get some forks. I'm not really sure the best technique for the large noodles.
I don't think there is one, is there?
No? I'm afraid.
Okay, so just the sauce.
Just the sauce, okay.
You're not going to like that, are you?
Well, more vegetables would be nice.
Yeah.
My bias says more vegetables.
So,
I mean, that being said, it tastes great.
it does. I really
it's
like
nice, but I would more vegetables.
I really like it. It's a stovetop thing, but you know what? I got really busy today making other things, so I put it in the oven at 275 degrees and let it go for about 3 hours in the oven. And that was actually easier than having it on the stovetop and stirring it.
Interesting.
Um,
That is easier than standing around stirring.
yeah, it's a stew. You could do it in the oven just as easily. And I was a little bit worried because there is no garlic and there are no leaves. There's no rosemary or thyme.
That's
or
not what I
oregano.
miss, though. It's the vegetables or the more tomato is what I miss.
More tomato.
Out of my own personal choice.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't miss the garlic. I don't miss all those other additional flavors. There's enough flavor in there.
There is a huge amount of flavor in there, isn't there? So I really like this. Julie seems to really like it. I was worried because it is mostly a meat sauce with a little bit of tomato.
More vegetables.
Here's the deal. So I tried to make it authentic-ish, right? And didn't do all of the things that most people do that Italian chefs get angry at because that's not authentic. But if you're making it at home and you want to put garlic in, put garlic in. You want to put oregano in, put oregano in. You want thyme, you want rosemary.
In my case, some more vegetables. A
Um,
few more carrots, a few more celery.
if I made this again at home just for us, Marmite.
You'll put that.
I'll put that in
In anything.
everything. Because I really think that it would bring that umami, that tomato flavor
Yep.
up. So that's it. Make it authentic, but really
Make it your own.
make it your own. You are cooking for
Right.
yourself at home, and there's nobody looking over your shoulder. The Italian food police are not going to drag you away in handcuffs. Make it how you want to make it. Thanks for stopping by.
Enjoy.
See you again soon.